Enabling EBS encryption by default is a wonderful example of technology that avoids mistakes by making it easier for people to do the right thing. Let's explore why default encryption makes sense for EBS. Suppose you have sensitive data on an EBS volume. An administrator of your account takes a snapshot of that volume and inadvertently makes it public. If that volume is not encrypted, any third party with an AWS account can create a volume from that public snapshot and access the data. To mitigate this possibility, you can apply encryption to all EBS volumes that are created. In this way, the volumes themselves are encrypted, as are the snapshots. If a third party were to create an EBS volume based on a snapshot with public permissions, it would not matter because the contents are encrypted and they do not have access to the key. However, there are a few considerations to keep in mind when considering the default EBS encryption. First, keep in mind that this is a regional setting. You need to enable default encryption in each region where you want it to take effect. Once enabled, all new volumes will be encrypted by default. Likewise, any snapshots of those volumes will also be affected. From an encryption standpoint, you can choose to use either the AWS managed KMS key or your own customer managed key. And, once enabled, there are no exceptions in that region. You cannot create a new unencrypted volume. Of course, it is possible to disable the default encryption after you have enabled it. So, let's take a quick look in the console at how we would do this. Okay, here I am in the Amazon EC2 dashboard. Enabling encryption by default is a very simple process. On the right side of the screen, under Account Attributes, we go into Data Protection and Security. On this screen, there are several things we can modify, but what matters to us at the moment is the EBS encryption. Therefore, we click on Administration and enable this checkbox. Remember that this change only affects the region in which you operate, and note also that it affects the types of instances you can launch. Once this option is enabled, you will only be able to launch instances using EBS encryption. With that done, I click the Update EBS Encryption button. And now, the option to always encrypt new EBS volumes is enabled. Let's see if this is true. From the left, I enter in Volumes, Create Volume. As this is just a demo, under Volume Type, I leave it like this. I'm going to make a relatively small volume. The availability zone will be the same where my EC2 instances are. And below, under Encryption, note that it says, Encryption is set by default, and from the key point of view, the default is the key managed by AWS for EBS. Note that it is possible to also specify a customer-managed key if you wish. So, with that configured, I'll click Create Volume, Update, and when I select that volume, notice down here it says Encrypted. Now, let's create a snapshot of this volume. I give it a description like Snapshot Demo. I'll add a name tag and value, encrypted, and create snapshot. Once done, I go to Snapshots, Update, and selecting that snapshot, we can see down here that it is indeed encrypted. Finally, let's take a look at launching a new instance. Once here, if I scroll down to the storage, notice that the root volume will be encrypted by default. If I add a new EBS volume, it will also be encrypted. If I click on Advanced in this new volume, I want to turn off encryption. I simply cannot do that. So, this is how you manage the encryption of both your EBS volumes and your snapshots.